Good morning, Veritas scientists. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. Today's lesson is going to be about photosynthesis, so we'll go over this vocabulary in a minute. Charlie is cuckoo right now. I don't know why, he's so excited. He's excited about photosynthesis, right? All right, so let's do a quick review first of what we've learned the last few days. Yesterday we learned about pollination. We learned about how pollination is the last stage in a plant's life cycle, and that is when it grows its seed or a fruit if it is a fruiting plant. All right, so seeds and fruit will then be produced after the flower is pollinated, and at that point it will begin to die, and the seeds will then start the cycle over at seeds. So the first stage was seeds, then germination. We watched some seeds germinate. I was lucky that I had all 4 seeds. The hibiscus seeds that I'm growing for my dad, I had all 4 of them actually germinate. So the last one germinated. I'm going to show you in a few minutes. I'm just going to plant it in some soil. So that's the second stage, is germination. That's when it's like the seed cracks open and the little root begins to start coming out. And that's usually something that happens underground and you never get to see it. So I did it in a cup of water so we could watch it, which I thought was really cool. So then next, after germination, the stems and the roots start to grow. The roots go down, the stem starts growing up. Then the leaves start to form, and that is when photosynthesis happens, and we're going to talk about that today. After the leaves grow and grow and grow and the plant gets bigger and bigger and bigger, we'll talk in a little bit about when they start to flower. It has to do with the amount of sunlight that they're getting. So generally, like in September, the days get shorter and there's less sunlight. So at that point, the flowers will begin to grow. All right. Every plant is a little different. Sometimes the flowers are out right now for some of the plants that we have out. So every plant is a little bit different, right? But it depends on the amount of sunlight that they're getting. Will depend on when it will stop growing leaves and will begin to grow flowers. Then after that is pollination. That's when the seeds and fruit are produced, and that's what we learned about yesterday. All right, so that's a quick review. Yesterday's question said, after germination, the stems and roots begin to grow. Next, the leaves begin to unfold. They take in sunlight and produce their own food through photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? That is the question that you had yesterday. So today we're going to talk about that question. What is photosynthesis? Now, we did learn this in school, but it's been about 3 months, and I know we've gone through a lot since then, so I wanted to make sure we review this. Okay, so today's date, photosynthesis. Here's the vocabulary. Photosynthesis is the process where plants make their own food. So that's key. Plants, of course, they're producers. They produce their own food. They don't actually go eating things, right? Like a consumer would. They produce their own food. So they actually make their own food using sunlight, water, and nutrients. They need these 3 things: sunlight, water, and nutrients from the ground, nutrients from the soil. Okay, so here's my drawing. Not the best. Notice there are no flowers yet because this is before the flowers begin to grow. This is when we are in this 4th stage. Seeds, germination, stems and roots start to grow, then the leaves start to grow, and this is where photosynthesis happens. So that's where we are before we get to the flowers. And then the fruit and seeds come after that. Okay, so let's take a look at my drawing here. So this is a plant. Those are the leaves that I colored in black. So plants, they absorb water and nutrients through the roots. So they soak up water out of the ground. They get nutrients from the soil. We talked a lot about that with the different organic matter. Those lessons we talked about with organic matter. There's lots of organic matter and nutrients that are in the soil. So the roots take in those nutrients and water to feed the plant, and which really gives the plant a chance to be able to make its own food, which we're going to talk about now. Okay, so plants breathe or take in CO2, which is carbon dioxide. So they breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out or release oxygen. So it's the opposite of humans and mammals. Mammals breathe in oxygen and they breathe out carbon dioxide. Plants are the opposite. They breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen. Okay, and it has to do with photosynthesis, why they do that. So inside of the leaves, there's something, I'll color them in red. They're like little, I'm showing them as little circles, right? You can't really see them. Maybe you can with a microscope. But there's something called chloroplasts on all of the leaves. Okay, so the chloroplasts, their job is to use sunlight to turn water and CO2, that's carbon dioxide, into sugar called glucose. And they turn it into oxygen. So what they do is they use this water and they use the carbon dioxide that they breathe in. The chloroplast uses the sunlight to turn the water and that carbon dioxide that they breathe in into sugar, which is called glucose. So they take in sunlight, they use the water and carbon dioxide and turn that into a sugar that they then use to feed themselves. And they release oxygen in the same time. Okay? So that glucose, that sugar that they make in the chloroplasts by bringing in sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, they make that glucose, and that sugar or glucose is used as food so the plant can grow. Okay? So the plants, as the sun is shining, that's the sun. The sun is shining down on these leaves, and the leaves all have chloroplasts in them, and those chloroplasts are going to take the sunlight, they're going to take the carbon dioxide that they're breathing in, they're going to take the water and the nutrients that they're breathing in, and they're going to turn that into a sugar called glucose, and that sugar is going to help the plant continue to grow. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's going to grow more and more and more leaves and get as big as it can as long as it has enough nutrients, water, and sunlight to allow photosynthesis to happen in these chloroplasts. So that is the process of photosynthesis. They are literally using the sun and the water and nutrients and the carbon dioxide that they breathe in to make their own sugar. That way they can continue to eat the sugar and grow. Pretty cool process, right? Very cool. We're going to talk in a couple of days about what happens in the fall, like what happens when those leaves start to turn brown and they're not turning green anymore, right? Because this process of photosynthesis is what turns the plants green. All right, so we're going to talk later about what happens when they start to die in the fall, right? Before they fall off the trees and then they're gone in autumn time, right? They're down on the ground and we jump in them. Okay, so here's your question for today. What are the jobs of the roots, stems, and leaves of a plant? Today we talked about photosynthesis, which happens in the leaves, so you have a little bit of an idea about that. I want you to think, what are the jobs of the roots, what are the jobs of the stems, and what are the jobs of the leaves of a plant? And that's what we'll start tomorrow going over, and we will continue the discussion about photosynthesis and about what happens when photosynthesis stops happening in the fall. All right, and that's it. So answer this question. I hope everybody has a great day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.